Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 15 of CNY Conversations. I am Jason Clank, and today I'm here with Mo Moodie. And Mo and I had connected through my Facebook networking group, and I asked him to be on the podcast. We're kind of switching our exchanging podcast episodes. But I wanted to have on the podcast because of his very interesting background and also the fact he's jumped into local politics. So, Mo, thank you for being here today.
A pleasure. I appreciate it.
So, Mo, he has his little bit of his political background. He's a bit of an entrepreneur. He's worked in several different places, both in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. From what I've read, you and what you had sent me is that you were born and raised down in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
You went to Binghamton for college and then started spending a lot of time here in Syracuse, kind of moved back and forth, but now you've really grown some roots here in Syracuse, correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about your background, some of your entrepreneur adventures and how you kind of went back and forth from overseas to the US and where you landed where you are today.
Yeah. Well, look, absolutely grateful and humbled to be on today's show. It was wonderful connecting with you, with your network and the group, and meeting everyone overall. So, just a little bit about myself. Like I said, I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I still feel like I am an upstate New York individual because, as a free-thinking adult, this is where I've made my home and always been a home base for me. I fell in love with Carousel Mall before, so to kind of like to date myself. Um,
Yes.
because when I was going to Binghamton, my favorite hangout spot was Kahunaville. I just
Okay.
I just love that vibe. Just the arcades, the Tom Collins throwing bottles inspired me ultimately to become a bartender and ultimately went into entrepreneurship. But I did go overseas uh, because I was a banker in Washington D.C. and I was like, lived in D.C., which was fantastic. Got my first taste into like politics and really understanding how things were moving and shaking. And being there, because there's such a translocation, you got exposed to so many different opportunities as you would have been from like a traditional American standpoint. Uh,
Right.
the American dream is, get good grades, go to school, get a good job, get married, have kids. There was an option where there were people becoming expats, becoming expatriates, where you would basically go overseas and live in another country and give it a shot. So I got into a group of people, went overseas, and I
Yeah.
was able to open up my own hat store. I had a physical brick and mortar retail hat store. I
Very
also
nice.
had a cafe and a speakeasy. So the hat store was during the day, and at night, fake wall curtain, opened up to a full on like bar, but it wasn't illegal or anything. It was just a speakeasy theme international, which was very nice and gimmicky, and had a really great, fantastic run. Um, but then I pivoted. I went into construction because I was overseas. I was in the Middle East, and the Middle East is always developing, and there's a lot of construction opportunities. And I was able
Okay.
to get a construction company up and running, get a lot of good contracts, and then I even came back to Syracuse and brought the construction company here prior to the pandemic, and started working. But I had to pivot, change, and
Yeah.
put a pause on the entrepreneurship hat. But now I'm here in Syracuse and raising my family. My 6-month-old son was just born here in Syracuse, and we have 3 kids now in total. Me and my wife, and 2 older girls, and
So you're very, very busy.
plates full. But
Yeah.
sometimes I learned when I was younger, a body in motion stays in motion. Is when you slow down, is when you start to break down. So I like to keep moving.
So, what was some of the noticeable differences from being an entrepreneur and starting businesses in the Middle East to versus here in the U.S.?
Well, there's a lot of cultural differences. I mean, there's
Sure.
just business practices and norms that you would expect to be honored here or just done in the United States is not done overseas. Like it was the first time I had to be exposed to people just straight lying, breaking contracts, not fulfilling orders, even though you have contractual agreements. So it was an interesting opportunity to develop myself to become very more solid, have a lot more grit, a lot more foundation, don't take things for granted, which also just applies to being applicable and having depth. That's why I
Mhm.
feel like it would be great to be a politician because you can see the big picture, not the small picture.
That's a good segue. So, you now, when did you first started really getting interested in local politics here?
Well, I mean, I think the initial spark was when I was a power banker in Washington. Well, I was called a power banker. That was the term, not my words, other people's. But like I was a power banker, in Washington D.C. Um, that's where I started to get involved into local politics there. I never really got a chance to pull the trigger and take action because I decided to go overseas and be an entrepreneur. And ultimately, I broke into the tech industry as well.
Okay.
Overseas allowed me to come back to the United States and break into the tech industry here. So, but the difference is just going to be culturally. It's just um, people steal from you. Unfortunately, you have to protect
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
That's the blaring differences.
Yeah. Did you see when you decided to jump in, and for everybody's knowledge, Mo is running for a county legislator seat. Which district was that again?
I'm running for Onondaga County Legislature, District 15.
District
Now,
15.
District 15 is such a unique district. For one, it's a brand new zone and map of the rezoning. So there's no incumbent. There isn't any precedent of anything set prior. And
Mhm.
even though it's for the county level, it's completely within the city of Syracuse, which is a unique dynamic because my potentially, constituents are going to be within the city, not outside of the county. So that's very unique. And District 15 is like a V. So you have
Okay.
like the left side, the periphery of Syracuse, coming down from like Price Right and like Salina, coming down into the valley, into Gaddon's Ice Cream, and then that back end, the back end of Syracuse, and then going straight back up, going towards like Comstock, outer Comstock, and Westcott, and towards like Syracuse University. So you would have um, teachers, what I mean, and staff members versus everyday people that have lived in the valley in Syracuse their entire life and living completely different lives, but yet a new district.
Yeah, I was just thinking. So you got part of the south side, the valley, part of
Yes, sir.
well, a little bit of the east side
Mm-hmm.
with the university area and
Hmm.
such. Um, so in Democratic or Republican, which ticket you running on?
Well, I'm an independent. That's one
Independent.
of the
Okay.
big things that I really wanted to make sure is very clear
Hmm.
that I'm running on the independent line. Now, as an individual, like I could have ran as a Democrat, I could have ran as a Republican, but I've been sitting home at my couch just screaming at the TV, like, why are these elected officials making these decisions? Like, did they talk to anybody? When's the last time we've had a town hall? When have they ever asked for like our opinion? I mean, it's
Right.
our money. Like I'm working hard. I'm killing, providing for my family. My brother and his providing for his family. We're all paying our taxes, but
Right.
where's the ROI? Where's the
Right.
return of investment? So
Right.
I wanted to be neutral because I want to be for the people. My whole slogan saying is your neighbor, your voice, as in it doesn't really matter what I think. That's not my job. You know what I mean? If
Right.
I'm elected as your county legislator, I'm supposed to represent you. The only way that I can represent you is to really truly be an independent so that I'm not handcuffed or tied to one group or another.
That's interesting because, and so I mean, traditionally we're in a Democratic state
Mm-hmm.
with a Republican county,
Mm-hmm.
and but we have, we have an independent mayor in Ben Walsh, which was outside the norm for this area
Mm-hmm.
because for generations it was typically a Democratic mayor and a Republican county exec.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's great to see an independent running. It's great to see like the last couple of presidential elections, I voted libertarian because I identified with the majority of the platform that is libertarian. Now I'm kind of the presidential wise. I'm drawn to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he's more, to me, he's a libertarian in Democratic clothing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a very interesting. It's always to me, it's always been a very interesting mix here in Central New York. And then when you get into the town and village races, like to me, the parties don't typically matter. It's who do I recognize that's running for office? Who do I recognize? That name recognition, face recognition. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
vote for them because they lived on my street or lived in my neighborhood. Versus, I don't really care what party they're on. What are they talking about? What are some of the top issues that have been your platform that you've kind of spoke to different groups about going through this campaign?
Well, my biggest thing is always going to be stop voting blindly down the line.
Ah,
I have historically have come from a long line of Democrats who just the norm of growing up. It's
yep,
you're a Democrat, you show up for election because we fought the vote, and you just vote down the line. And so many people do that. Part of my platform is being your neighbor, your voice is that we have to wake up and say, Syracuse, like, how are we doing? Like, how's our school system?
right,
Hmm? How's our murder gun crime rate? Doing good. Like our housing, right? It looks great when you drive down a block anywhere in Syracuse. It looks developed nice, or you're seeing open homes and vacancies in dilapidated buildings. So like there needs to be a change. So one of my biggest platforms, one is going to be true representation. That's why I want to go back to fundamental basics. That's why I say I'm your neighbor, your voice. As in before I make an informed decision on anything, I'm going to talk to my constituents. I'm going to have town halls. I'm going to have public feedback. I totally believe in having a group think where we come together and we polish an idea. Now, of course, as the designated representative and leader, I might give information as in, hey, here's background. I've done the research, which is part of my job. Here's all the information so you can make a sound decision. Now, based on that, I'm leaning this way. How does everybody feel? Now, if the entire group in town hall says, hey, we don't like this idea that I put forward, I'm not one of those people in politics going to be like, I'm going to do it anyway. Because that's not my job. You know, being in this position, if you really look at it, it is a 10-month long job application.
Yeah.
For the best qualified individual. And the job is to represent you, to be your voice. Now, of course, if there's ever, I can't think of an emergency scenario where all the legislators are passed away or locked up, or there's a crisis scenario, and I have to make a split decision on behalf of the group, I can. One, I used to be a former New York City police officer. I grew up in an inner city Brooklyn project. So like, sorry. Apologize. So sorry.
No worries.
Like I said, I grew up in inner city projects. So like stress, pressure. I was in grad school, undergrad. I double majored in undergrad. I was like a couple classes short from being a double minor in undergrad. I went for Binghamton for like psychology and sociology. So I understand people and why people think, and Africana studies and women's studies was my minor, which I didn't finish, but then I went to grad school and I, had a master's in social science with a concentration in public administration. Hence in grad school, I double majored as well. So I double everything. Mo Moodie, M squared, that's part of like my logo. This is who I am, the second power.
That's awesome.
Right? But to answer your question, right, to be long-winded, I want to be one of those long individuals.
Long-winded answer short. That's what I say. I love saying that all the time. My long-winded answer short.
Long-winded short. But my big thing is going to be one, I want to create the TCI, the Tax Credit Initiative. Currently, our county is unique. Onondaga County Legislature, we have a $1.4 billion budget that we manage and maintain. Most counties are negative. We're in a surplus. That's one. So with TC, we're doing something well. They've done all the foundation. They've done phenomenal, great things. But as the county is profitable, I want to roll that back to our constituents. We're giving you a tax credit. In essence, if you make $50,000 a year, the county's killing it, and we're crushing all our goals, right? Then I'll give you a tax credit where instead of you being taxed on 50, you can be taxed on 30, because we've done so well. Because that's when it's time for us to see return of investment. So I want to bring the TCI into. Overall, I'm bringing the Syracuse Renaissance movement. I just want to basically create a Renaissance movement. We started this energy. It's part of my platform, as in we're going to bring in jobs, and not jobs. I want to be very clear, careers. Now, a job is something that you hold on to and you let go. A career is something that you maintain, develop, your personal skills that you can turn into, in essence, a career within your family as a legacy.
Yeah.
So careers. There's tons of tech jobs and remote jobs that I have connections to within the industry that I would love to bring right here to Syracuse. So there'll be tons of people working remotely from home, even though they're working out of California and getting California salary. Have I piqued your interest?
Oh, I'm sure.
Right. And then if you're not physical, if you're not mental, you're like, hey, I don't want to be an academic. I don't want to like be that type of individual. If you're physical, I had a construction company. One of the most pleasing things in the world is just doing demolition, smashing a wall down with a sledgehammer. So therapeutical, right?
Did that for many years in the fire service. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. The cleanup, not so much. But
right.
The physical part, yes. But if you wanted to break into the construction industry, there are tons of unions here, and we have so many projects coming up that you can get into that you may not even be aware of. For example, right? I never knew I was a carpenter. I grew up in inner city Brooklyn projects. When did I ever have a need to be a carpenter? Like it just never came as like a resource or a skill. However, when I came to open up my first like hat retail brick and mortar store, I was watching the construction people put together stuff, and I'm like, I absolutely can do this. Like I can absolutely do this. And not only did I did it, I stopped the project. I paid him for half the project, gave him a little bit of an extra bonus, and then I finished the rest of the store on my own. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I started speaking to the local construction people, and I picked up a trade, and I became a carpenter, at least overseas. I mean, I didn't necessarily do much of it here, but it was still a hidden skill set that you may not even be aware of. And there's tons of kids and young individuals here in Syracuse that are looking for work and looking for skills. So getting them careers, having them to break into the tech industry, if you want to be a 9-to-5 corporate individual, if you want to be physical, there's tons of physical labor jobs. And then be your own boss, be an entrepreneur. One of my other things is I want to bring in the business corridor. There's tons of areas within District 15 that used to be popular, growing commercial hubs. We had the Erie Canal, we had the Salt City, we had the Salt Market. We had so many things going on here, and the infrastructure is here. Now, as an entrepreneur, be your own boss. Like, as in, I want to make programs, initiatives that allow these dilapidated buildings to get built up and get these small entrepreneurs. Like, if you want to make soap or tapestries or whatever it is that you're doing, even beer, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Whatever tickles your fancy. Rather having an empty building and you sitting here thinking about being a business owner, let's push into that. Another aspect of mine is always going to be the housing crisis. Like, I used to be an inner city cop. There was this concept called the broken glass theory, which is basically says if your area looks like crap, crime goes up. Excuse my language, but if your area looks bad, crime will go up.
For sure.
Right? One way to combat crime is not have broken windows and doors. Don't have your properties look bad. We have that all throughout District 15, unfortunately.
Let me ask you this then. The city itself, the city proper itself, is notoriously poor, and the city government, runs itself on very low tax bases, tax foundations. The property taxes kind of, to me, encourage those slumlords, those people that aren't going to take care of their properties, aren't going to reinvest in their neighborhoods because realistically, they don't have a lot of skin in the game. If they're only paying $2,000 or $3,000 a year in property taxes, but you go 10 miles or even 5 miles in either direction to a town or a village, and they're paying $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year in property taxes. It's quite the difference. And, I don't see that ever being cured overnight. I've started, being in a little bit, having a real estate business and being involved in the area. I've seen some new developments within the city limits, especially downtown. There are investors coming in and doing those things, but, we still have this poverty issue. We still have the city of Syracuse as a poor city. And, where's that fine line of, listen, we're going to start raising property taxes because we want to provide better for our neighborhoods and encourage our neighborhoods to grow. I can see that as, starting, you'll get more of a decline before things start getting better. What's your take? What is your feeling on that situation?
Look, there's definitely a housing crisis here in Syracuse. It's no secret. You just walk down any block, you see it. And there's a lot of housing opportunities. There's tons of people buying homes and things being developed. As me walking around, as I'm canvassing, knocking on doors, the one big unifying thing I've seen is that residential neighborhood traditional communities like Westcott wants to stay Westcott. They don't want to turn into an extension of downtown Syracuse and have these major buildings or rental properties where people are transit. They love the community side. However, there is a growth. We have Micron coming in. We have JMA Tech Wireless Technologies come in. So we're doing all the right things to go into a major city in attracting outside investment. Now, we need outside investment. However, we still need accountability. And that's where the break in the hose is. Now, a lot of people have always been pointing to, oh, it's the landlord's fault. Well, I know a lot of landlords. Some might be their faults, but some it really isn't. Especially when you have investment properties and you yourself may not even be a local owner of that property, and it's more of like a income. As in, the break really is going to be the management firms. That's the break in the hose. That is really the golden egg, the secret goose that we need to uncover the root of the problem, because you have these management firms that, first of all, for you to be a certified, management firm just means you had to have managed a portfolio in the past. Doesn't mean you did the job good. Didn't mean that you were phenomenal in what you were doing. You could have been horrible and fired from your last portfolio. Now you're here in a whole new state, and you go, can you get certified? Yes. So I know one particular landlord, especially during COVID, who is from Rochester, who owns some property. And during the pandemic, he thought the management firm was doing all the right things because he was an absentee, owner of the property, and they weren't collecting rent. The tenants destroyed the place, and next, they're saying you're a slumlord. He's like, whoa, I am paying a firm to do
Right.
this job, right? Because right
Yep.
now there is no like committee review board. There is no penalty, to my understanding, or any type of enforcement or code enforcement whatsoever when it comes to the management firms. So I can run into Syracuse, run amok, buy a whole bunch of properties, run the place down, bounce. Now I'm going to Jersey, and no one thinks twice. Or I
Right.
just reinvent the management firm name again, make another shell. And unfortunately, this is happening. I'm aware of this. I want to bring this to public knowledge. I want to have an enforcement part of my platform to make these management firms accountable. That way, things don't go bad, right? Because that's all we need as human beings. We just need loving, caring individuals to say, hey, you live here. I don't want you to live in a slum, broken down, water damage, snow coming in. You got squirrels living in the wall. And you go, oh, that's part of life. No, that's not part of life.
No. And so just to switch gears a little bit, and I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but something that's a topic that's kind of near and dear to me is the current status of public safety. And I have watched, and this is nationwide. It's not particular to Syracuse or Onondaga County. It's nationwide, but public safety. There's a public safety staffing crisis, and really, what we have going on is a generational shift where, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers that were ingrained in their head that they were going to go and get a civil service job like that, get a decent salary, retire after 25 or 30 years, and you'd be happy with it.
Yeah.
To where that generational shift and gap is created to where that $50,000 a year to go be a police officer or 911 dispatcher or firefighter is not worth the mental beating that you're going to take. And you have less of a mental taxing by going throw packages at Amazon for $60,000 a year. So we have this gap, and really the biggest exodus has been the experienced personnel that have decided to leave either from 10 to 20 years, or you get a cop or a firefighter that hit their 20 years and left. Instead of saying 30 or 35 years because they love the job, they've had enough. 20 years, they're gone. So you take somebody that's 45 or 46 years old with a ton of experience, they reach retirement age, and now they're gone. And I know from working in at 911 that year after year, or every couple of years, we would have union contract talks with the county. And, Joni Mahoney at one of the times told the county workforce, so you're getting 1% for your cost of living increase, and you're going to like it. Oh, by the way, by the third and fourth year of the contract, you're not getting anything. And they want people to stay. And they wonder why they can't recruit, they can't retain. And it's really in a tough spot. And my long-winded point short is I see that as something that the politicians have ignored up to this point and really need to maybe influence a bit moving forward.
Well, one of the big things that I want to bring in, like I said, is this Renaissance movement. And with that is going to be enlightenment and change. Now, in order to have that, you have to have basic infrastructures in place. Now, you can't have a successful city if you don't have law enforcement. Now, I'd rather have the city of Syracuse, where it's like the golden age of law enforcement, where everyone's from the neighborhood. The officer knows the people from the area. So there's none of this like brutality, unfortunately, not here, but like in other departments that you see nationwide,
Right.
Because it's a lot easier for an individual to be dehumanized to a group they have no connection to, as opposed to how do you be a crazy bully to your like next door neighbor that you grew up with.
Right.
Because like when I was a police officer, and I'm a little bit biased, I was a police officer in New York City. And the big thing for me growing up and why I went into it is I wanted to see change. I've always wanted to be changed. I'm not one of those individuals that sits around and just complains about things.
Yep.
Right? Get up and do it. You don't like something about it, change it. Be the change. Like make the effort. I went into the police department. I learned so much valuable life skills like leadership, cross organizational like politics and working with groups and individuals, plus verbal judo, sociology, and just basic human understanding of individuals. So with that being said, it is completely important to have staff, right? Like, like from an inside point of view, I've known friends, especially like in Arizona, for example. I have buddies of mine that went over to Arizona PD, completely understaffed, where they need help and they call for backup. It's like 40 minutes
Yeah.
until the next unit comes. And I don't want that for Syracuse, right? First of all, the job is needed, and it shouldn't be a point of policing through violence and intimidation. This should be just, look, I'm a big dude. Okay. I'm 6 foot. I'm 230. I have like police, training. If I really wanted to take things around me, I could. What stops me from taking things? Because I don't know. There's cops. There's other people that are bigger and there's more of them. Right. So we have to have that grounded sense, because otherwise we go into this wild, wild west of Americana, where it's just, I got myself a gun, hope for the best. That shouldn't be the case. We're civilized.
Right.
Attracting the qualified individuals was where the county legislators come in, right? We should be providing programs and funding to help recruit. There's no reason why there's only like 5 people in the current, or something, like I can count on my hand the current Syracuse, 10 maybe. Like the whole point is, when I was in the New York City Police Department, my academy was 500 people.
Yeah.
Right?
And Syracuse Police Academy right now, they started with 10 or 12 and they lost half of them
That's what
because
I'm saying.
the candidates weren't great, and they figured it just wasn't the job for them.
And just having 5 new people hit in the street is not going to be enough to bolster what is needed for proper, policing. Don't get me wrong. I don't want hands-on policing at all. Like, I was one of those individuals just like, look, we just want peace. Keep the peace. Don't break into my car. Like, there was a bunch of kids that were in my neighborhood that were just smashing the cars and stealing for a whole, like all the last summer, right? It was like a big, it just, they were young, they were dumb.
Yep.
That also comes into the fact there's a lot of opportunities. And that's an opportunity. If we can start recruiting and having the county put in type of programs and initiatives, because like right now, I'm pretty sure the Police Benevolent Association in New York City has no idea that we need cops right now. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I called a couple of buddies like, hey guys, you guys want to come to Syracuse? It's a smaller city. It's nice. We got great weather. So
great weather 6 months out of the year.
6 months out of the year, But the whole point is that if that's not even on the table, then how do we get that? That's why we need someone who has the ability to think globally, but act locally, non-original thought. That's what I want. That's what I bring to the table. The fact that I've been able to work in other countries, in different states, in different cities, and different perspectives and different climates, that there's so many different skills that we can use to solve these problems. Recruiting people to be police officers should never be an issue, because we have the money. You just don't have the people.
Pay them now or pay later, one or the other. I say that all the time. Pay me now or pay me later.
And if we need to make more money to pay them, then let's do it. The county, we have everything that we need. We're building an aquarium. We have the zoo. We have an airport. We have the transit, as in like the Amtrak and Greyhound. Like, we're a major thoroughway. There's tons of resources. And once Micron and JMA and Amazon and all these other things start kicking in, more people are going to come into this area. This is going to be a renaissance movement, and I'm trying to usher this in with the skill sets that are needed to do the job correctly. So when you say to me, we don't have enough qualified individuals in 911, I'm like, all right, let's go get them. Let's make committees. Let's ask the civilians to have hiring committees. Let's find these individuals. Let's just run a simple social media ad. Give me $50. I'll get some cops here. Come on.
So you had mentioned Micron and JMA. So we do have a lot of development, a lot of investment going on between Micron, JMA, the 81 bridge project, whatever that turns out to be, the revitalization of Shopping Town Mall. How, as a government body, do the representatives prevent these type of projects, the aquarium, from getting out of hand, from getting mismanaged, that end up turning into like the Big Dig in Boston that was years, over time, way over budget, cost the taxpayers billions of dollars. It's a whole lot to manage when you got all these different pawn pieces getting moved around.
Yeah. Well, to be frank and not bold as much, elect me. Right. The individual that's going to be on the county level is going to have the entrepreneurship background, have the mindset of having the educational background, living in very diverse communities, will able to help break the collateral damage of, for example, let's take a look at the aquarium, right? The aquarium, big supporter. All right. Everyone's concern is going to be, are we going to be able to afford it? And can we get an ROI, a return on investment on this particular deal? Right. So when these type of projects and programs are coming in onto the county legislative level, we need a clear-headed individual that does not thinking short term, but can think long term, and also have, because I'm a social scientist, because that's what I went to school for, right? To have the ability to understand this, the trickle down economics and the spillover into the community. So, for example, if you do Highway 81, we saw 81. We already did Syracuse. We took 81, we put it down, we separated communities. It was a nightmare. We don't want to go through that problem again. Right now, 81 has been approved. It's happening. Right, done deal. Sorry, that's happening. Right, so now we need someone to make sure that it doesn't go sideways. Elect an individual like myself who has a construction background, that knows to talk to unions, they're able to use cross-organizational functionality, be able to talk to other counties, talk to other transportation departments. Like I'm saying, think globally, act locally. Like, just as here in Syracuse, we're not in a bubble. We got Binghamton, we got Broome County. Right? We can talk to people over there, see what's going on in their life. And I can talk to other legislators and other individuals. I can also talk to the city and talk to the state. Like, I'm a very vocal social individual. So if you have me on this position, I'm not just going to be like, all right, I'm in a box. How do we fix 81? And I'm going, well, open the box. First of all, we're going to make this profitable. We're going to make money from this, right? For example, we have construction workers and union deals, and then we need the infrastructure. And then if we have a functioning thoroughway, which we already know is like the heart vein, like artery of public transportation, because we have Canada and Pennsylvania on our background. So all truckers are coming through here.
Yeah.
Have infrastructure and businesses to help pull some of those revenues, make it a more of like a tourist truck destination stop, because when they stop, they spend money.
Yep.
And when they spend money,
sure.
we have taxes. We have more revenue. So we need an individual that's going to be like myself, that's going to come in and make sure that, one, neighborhoods don't get destroyed. The union workers get hired. We make sure infrastructure is in place. We make sure that we set up safeguards so that with evaluation, because for example, I've been in business and entrepreneurship. I work in the tech industry, tons of hours in the boardroom. You just don't make a project and go, all right, that's great. Let's see what happens. Hope for the best. Throw some money at it. Like, you can keep throwing money at something. Eventually, you'll solve the problem. Or you can set up some safeguards. Let's do some A and B testing and seeing, hey, let's evaluate. Is this going the direction that we need? And let's start interviewing the constituents around us. Just knock on the door. Hey, how's everything going? You live near the highway. How are you feeling? Do you feel good? Something you want to talk about? And then we can make changes. We don't have to be so rigid and stuck in this like current way that we've been doing things. We need a thinker. We need someone who's calm-headed, like myself, to come in and make sure that we don't have these problems.
Yeah. 100%. I like where you're going with this, and I think we need more of this kind of clear, upfront thinking that brings everybody together versus trying to separate everyone and see what kind of results you get out of it. I think that's the worst thing that's been going on nationally is let's polarize. Let's polarize and see if we can have results, but it's the results on either side of the polar spectrum there that really is just failing. And, and again, it goes back to why I'm kind of drawn towards RFK Jr. is his platform. Same thing. I want to bring people together. I want to bring the country back together and make it about the people and not about political gain. And I think we need more of that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's my first time running, for political office. So, I'm not going to say that I'm not a politician. Yes, I am a politician, hence I'm going for the job. I'm not one of those individuals that's not going to say that. But what I am saying is that I'm tired of this blue versus red, red versus blue, A versus B. And we're losing sight of what needs to be. Our people, our children, our communities. We live here. So rather than having someone say, hey, I want credit for the Highway 81 project so it advances my political career, I just want to be like, what's really good for Syracuse and Onondaga County? Like, what's going to be good for everyone here? How can we create a win-win?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So, kind of to wrap this all together, what does the next 4 months look like for you?
Well, my big thing for the next 4 months is just getting out there and having people have an understanding of who I am. There's a lot of misinformation. People want to talk about me and put me in a box. I've never been in a box. Like I said, I get out the box. I knock the box over. Right? You got to talk to me. And I want to get out there and meet people as much as possible. Because my experience is, like, especially being an entrepreneur, having a brick and mortar store, you can have the best product in the world. But if no one knows about you, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yep.
Now, I might people, not my words. Those people have said, Mo, this is what we've been waiting for. Mo has everything that we want. Thank God someone like Mo has stepped up to the plate, as in Mo Moodie, right? But when you look at the media, unfortunately, it's an off-season election, local politician, first time running, not getting a lot of attention. So it's one hard way for me to really get out and go like, hi, my name is Mo. I'm here to make you tons and tons of money. I'm going to make sure that our communities are safe. And I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to do it. As in within the next 4 months, like I'm giving out my phone number. First of all, my cell phone number that I have, my big thing is call me. Keep me honest. You say that, hey, Mo, I see you on TV. I don't like what you're doing. Call me up. I'm like, Mo, why are
Mm-hmm.
you doing X, Y, or Z? Like, stay true to who you are. So for the
Yep.
next 4 months is just getting to know as much people as possible because I am supposed to be your representative. And I can't be your representative if I don't know what's important pressing to you. Hence why I came to your group as well, because I want to know what's
Right.
going on in the entrepreneurship circle within Syracuse. I've gone
Yep.
to so many other groups. So overall, next 4 months is just being honest, being true, being humble, and just doing the right thing because this is a job application for 10 months, right? So I'm now in the final phase of this like job application. And I would also love to just debate my opponent first off. I think that would be the best way to just go apples to oranges.
Yes.
Who's better for the
Yep.
job?
Yeah, for sure. And then that works towards the name and facial recognition that is important to all political races. If you're not seen, you're unseen, and if you're not visible, you're invisible. And if they don't know about you as the person, you as your platform, why should they vote for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in simplicity, like if I want to get any message, anything everyone hears from this is that my name is Mo Moodie. I am running for Onondaga County Legislature. I'm just like you, completely fed up, and I'm doing something about it. And my whole goal is to take a $1.4 billion budget and make it 2.8 by the time I'm done with ARR, annual reoccurring revenue, not just one-time windfalls. That's like, oh, we won some contract and we won some money. No, I want reoccurring. I want to double it. That's my goal. I want to give money back to you in the form of a tax credit. I want to make the streets better, fix crime, and turn this into a Syracuse Renaissance movement. And that's what you should take away from this. Like, don't vote blindly Democrat or Republican or anything down the line. Look at the actual candidate, get to know who I am. I'm running as independent. So on the ballot, I'm not even on that little section. I'm on the bottom part of the ballot, which is different. My name is Mo Moodie. I'm here to make you money.
Great. And you know what? And just to kind of put a bow on this is I truly believe from what I've heard in different circles is that entrepreneurs will be the ones to correct the problems in this country. It won't be the career politicians. They don't have a clue. It's going to be the entrepreneurs that have been down in the trenches that have built something and know how to build up something. And that's what's going to end up making things not only here in our local little part of the world in central New York, but across the country. I truly believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need change. We need
Yep.
change. And the one thing I can say to you is that I was overseas for 10 years, plus or minus, give or take, for business and entrepreneurship. And when I came back to Syracuse, I was shocked at what I found. It was not what I left. I felt like I was in an episode of Sliders or a Quantum Leap,
Yeah.
or like the
Twilight
Twilight
Zone.
Zone, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, just going back in time, in that regard, and just alternate reality. I want things to be. I have children here. I want them to be successful. I fell in love with Syracuse. I want them to fall in love with Syracuse. I want them to I want my grandkids to be here. I want it to
Great.
be safe, and I want them to have all of the opportunities they can to give their gift to the world.
Awesome. Great stuff. With that, what's the best way for people to connect with you, either on social or otherwise?
Well, I got my YouTube channel, which is Vote Mo Moodie. If you want to, search that as well. I got some interesting content that I'm spinning out. I have my Facebook as well, and I have Twitter, and I have most social medias. But if you go to my website, which would be Vote M2, right? Because like vote, because politics. M, my name, Mo Moodie, right? Because M squared, because I'm Mo to the second power, right? Vote M2.com. You can go to my website, you can see my platform and all my social media stuff. And
Outstanding.
my phone number, just call me. Can I give out my phone number? Yeah. Can I give out my phone number? Can I do that? Can I
Yeah.
be one of those politicians like, hey, can you
Yeah.
actually legitimately call my cell phone? Like, you just go direct to the source, just call me. Right? Is that cool, or should I not do that?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
All right. You can call my direct phone number 315-766-8661. 315-766-8661. Here's my cell phone. Call me. Talk to me.
Here we go. Put it up on the screen.
Absolutely.
Call
Keep me
Mo.
honest. Keep me honest. All right. I'm here to serve you. Call me.
Outstanding. Mo, thank you so much for joining me here today. For everybody that's either watching the podcast or listening to it later in the audio version, drop a comment, drop a question. Let us know what you think. If you can't find Mo for some reason in the social circles or on his website, reach out to me. I'll put you in contact. If you're one of his constituents and you want to meet with him, call him. Give him a call. He's put it out there.
Wait,
Outstanding.
That way. Call me.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of success and a successful run for County Ledge.
I appreciate it. Very humbled and grateful to be on your show. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
Outstanding. Everybody, once again, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Have a great day.